Hello, I am joined by Jev. Hello, Jev.
Hello, how you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. So I know that your name has actually gone through some changes over the years. So do you want to just speak on that a little bit?
It's only really been one change. Used to be Canadian Jev, and it's just Jev now. But I'll change it every once in a while, depending on the season. So right now it's since it's Easter, it's Kinder Egg Jev. But
Yes, I do
yeah,
remember you as Canadian Jev.
right.
Those were the good old days of Boomer Melee.
Was
Uh,
feels like ages ago.
yeah. Um, so how did you hear about Holdfast, and do you remember your first day playing?
Found out about Holdfast. I think I had seen it here and there, but I never paid much mind to it. I got the game after seeing that one Soviet Womble video that had really blown up in 2018. Um, and since I was coming from NW, I knew I wanted to join a regiment right away. So I went to the Holdfast forums. I joined a regiment, and I think I joined as a merc, but they wanted me to join if I wanted to attend a competitive training. So I got what's it called? I got conned into joining the regiment, and here we are, I guess.
You got conned into joining a regiment?
Somewhat.
That must
I
have been a
wanted
good
to go to
recruiter.
the event. I wanted to go to the event, and he said, "No, you have to join. You can't be a merc." Like, okay.
Oh man, recruiting tactics 101.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, can you just give me like a brief summary of like the start of your regimental life to sort of like where you're at right now?
Well, when I first joined, it was in August 2018. When I first joined Holdfast, meaning. I became an officer for the first time in early 2019 as the leader of a guard detachment. And eventually I left that regiment to make the 7th FUS in July of 2019. I've been the leader since. I used to be the sole leader for the first 6 months, but now Los is my co-leader, kind of like the yin and yang of the regiment, and that's where we are now. Hasn't really changed since.
Um, when I remembered you as Canadian Jev, you were just sort of like an enlisted member that was like trying to get really good at melee, but then I guess something changed and you were like, I think I'm gonna focus more on like line leading and like, officer stuff. So like was that change gradual or was it kind of like a sudden switch?
So from what I remember, um, whenever we had line battles when I was an enlisted, we would always warm up on like Palisade Arena. Remember when it still had like the poles?
Yeah, the pose.
Right. And there would be a corner of the Palisade Arena, like the eastern corner between the poles. They would say that's a melee only area. If you go in there, you're not allowed to shoot, and you can't shoot anyone who's in there. And one of our officers was Sergeant Forge, who was like one of the best meleeers at the time. Every warm up, I would always try and go to fight him in that little corner for months, really. I didn't really have any particular ambition to get good. Like, it wasn't a drive. I just thought it was fun to try to melee him and try to beat him. Because just sitting around and shooting people wasn't really appealing to me. Like in the Palisade Arena, it was a little boring to just wait for the reload circle to fill up and then try to shoot again. I'd rather go melee someone. So that's how it started. And the switch to joining guards, it was really just one day. They decided to form a guard detachment, and I was invited to join it as one of its first members. So from there, being in guards, obviously melee was a huge focus of what we did. So that's what my focus became.
Cool. I remember Forge. I think I had like a first to 100 with him, and like I beat him like 103. It
Yeah,
was pretty rough. Um, so the first regiment you joined, or you were conned into, was that the 49th?
yeah, that was the 49th.
Oh man. Um, so how was your experience like in the 49th?
It was fine. The When I was an enlisted, I don't have anything to complain about. I was in B company that was led by Devon, and I joined them because I liked the officers, so I didn't really have any problems there. I liked the vibe. Um, in 2020, that's when I became, sorry, in 2019, that's when I became an officer. So that's when, because Misha left he joined the 63 and he was the leader of guards, so I was put in charge of guards when he left. And obviously, being an officer, it's a much different experience than being an enlisted. And over time, I just um, interacted with more people in the regiment. And just to keep long story short, obviously you get to interact with things that are less pleasant. And eventually, I got annoyed enough that I decided to leave and make the Seven Foos.
Now, when that happened, did you try to work things out so maybe you could have stayed in the 49th?
My original plan, just during the NWLs, during summer, um, the problems with like my personal issues with the leadership and my disillusion with how the regiment was working was just building up. I tried to bring it up a few times. I would usually get shut down pretty quickly, as most people do. I probably should have, voiced it more seriously, but it at that point I still wasn't super serious about the game. Like I was just an officer in a regiment. It's very different than being the leader. Like I feel absolutely 100% responsible for the seventh Foos. I wouldn't just like get up and leave randomly. Although I did do that one time, but that's I guess I'll come up later. Um, but as an officer, I just felt like I wasn't really enjoying my time in Holdfast anymore. So I had decided that when the NWLs would be over, I was going to leave. And I told a few of my friends that were in the regiment, yeah, I'm probably just gonna leave after the NWLs. I'm kind of done with the competitive and kind of done with being an officer. I'm not really interested in doing that anymore. Um, from there, a lot of people, when they heard that I was planning on leaving, said that they would leave as well. So that's when it became a problem. That because I wasn't the only one who had issues with the leadership. There was a sizable portion of the regiment. They weren't happy with the uh, the management style. So they knew I did a lot of the work in there, and when they heard that I wanted to leave, they wanted to leave with me and to make a new regiment. So I tried to organize a meeting with the leaders, and we had it. We had a meeting with them, basically like, hey, these are the issues. This is why these people want to leave with me. Like this is your chance to sort it out, to try to keep those people and um, get them to stay. But as far as I was concerned, I had already decided I was leaving pretty much no matter what. It was just, if 30 people are gonna leave and say that they're gonna join, like leave a regiment because of me, then when I left, I made the seven foos. But if I was just gonna leave on my own, I don't know if I would have made the regiment anyways. I was thinking about it. I don't know what would have happened, so I can say it's probably less likely, but might have still happened.
Uh,
Um, yeah.
I know that the 49th, I guess disbanded would be the best term to use. Disbanded. I don't know how long after the Seven Fleets was created the 49th disbanded, but um, can you just explain that a little bit and how that all happened?
So when we left, there was like I think 25, 30 of us on the first week that left the 49th. Um, so that was a lot of the active player base, people who aren't very active. They don't really care about these issues. Some of them were less active members, but the majority were people who were playing like, 3, 4, 5 times a week. So that hurt the 49th in terms of attendance, although they did seem to recover initially. Like they were still bringing 40 to 50 at the first few events afterwards. I really wanted to keep a friendly relationship with them, but that was obviously foolish on my end to think that they would want anything to do with us. Um, but at the time I thought, look, we're leaving. It's not personal. we want to do our own thing. But when we tried to, like for example, they had internals the day right after we left, and we decided to go merc for them so that they wouldn't have to cancel internals because they would have like way too many people missing. You can't do internals with like 15 people. So we showed up, but they saw that as us trying to like siphon away more people to the new regiment, which from their perspective that makes sense. I didn't think they would go that way, but like I said, that was a bit foolish from me. So a month after that, all the active players left, like I said. All the officers that were motivated, they were either already gone from the 49th, or they weren't interested really in Holdfast. At the time, common saying "Hold fast, do do." Um, the state of the game was very different than what it is today. Even if you have gripes with it today, like I think everyone can agree it was much worse back then. But I think a month after we left, they switched to War of Rights, and a month after that, War of Rights didn't really work out, so they just converted to a gaming community. After that, they had a brief run in Prime and Load that I think you had witnessed.
Oh
But
yes, we'll be bringing up Prime and Low. Don't worry.
okay, but yeah, it's just I think the officers that were still there just weren't motivated to continue running a regiment and hold fast. The leader of the regiment, he was already pretty much AWOL like 90% of the time.
Merchant, I
Um,
believe you're talking about.
yeah, Merchon. He just he always said because of his Wi-Fi he couldn't be around. But it was at the point that like 90% of the enlisted just didn't even know he existed. Like he would never be around to hang out, or he would never show up for anything. Like I said earlier, I tried to bring it up a few times, but it was always like, well, my Wi-Fi isn't good, so no. Um, the 1.5 was very motivated. He was a, I mean, I regret that the what happened affected our personal relationship because I did consider him to be a friend, but I understand why he feels the way that he does to this day. Um, but he was already going, I believe, to pilot school, if I remember correctly. He was already planning on leaving, but I think the whole event just made him want to take a break. So he also left the regiment not very long after we did. So that was the second in command, the really motivated leader that was always around doing stuff. He was gone. Um, the only officer that I can think of that was still there, that was still very motivated, was Sergeant Forge, who happened to be on break that week. So he basically came back from his break to just like, oh, half the regiment's gone, and
That
he
must have been a
eventually,
sign.
yeah, must have been. Um, I don't know. After a couple months, when they switched to War of Rights, I think that's when he decided to make the switch to the Seven Foos because he wasn't interested in War of Rights. I don't know what happened for them in War of Rights. I think it was something to do with just the community being kind of toxic, and I don't really remember. I don't want to say anything that's wrong, so if they ever want to speak for themselves, then they can. But at this point, it's so old, and it was just like a month. It doesn't really matter. Point being, they gave up on it after a month and just became a gaming community.
So looking back, you think even though like that might have not went down like the best way possible, like it was in the grand scheme of things, it was like a very good thing.
Um, I mean, I tried to help as much as I could. Like I organized a meeting with them to try to convince everyone to stay. But to be honest, all the concessions that people wanted to be made were pretty out there. Like they wanted the merchant to step down. Some of them didn't want 1.5 to become the new leader if merchant stepped down. They wanted elections for officers. They wanted I mean, a whole load of stuff that just like there was no way that they were ever going to agree to it. And I told them that before the meeting, but that's what they wanted. That's what they went to the meeting with. During the meeting, Merchant said, I still have a fucking clip from that meeting, just him saying like, "Look, if you guys want to leave, make your own regiment. You're free to do so." just don't poach. That was just that's what he said. Um, as far as I'm aware, there like really wasn't any poaching. There was one kind of instance of one member messaging another, saying, "Hey, we left. Maybe you should come," and we punished that person when we were provided screenshots. But that was, yeah, depending on who you ask, what we did was 100% poaching. According to other people, it wasn't. I think it's a bit of a gray area. If I were to do it today, like I think me telling my friends was short-sighted, but I was really just telling them, "Hey, I'm leaving." That was my intention, and it spread very quickly because I had become a fairly prominent figure in the regiment at that point. Like they were considering me to become their next CO in some aspects, to because I was doing that much work. I had overhauled all their paperwork. I was there pretty much every event. Um, I don't know. It spread pretty quickly. It became beyond me very quickly. I tell a friend, that friend tells three people. Um, I did what I could to soften the blow. I even stayed behind after everyone left. After the meeting that we had, a bunch of people left. I stayed after for a few days, just to help them, like with paperwork, help them transition, and just again trying to soften the blow. But by that point they hated me, so they didn't really want anything to do with me. And after a few days, I left. And I can't say I really blamed them. Like I would be pretty upset in their position as well. I still feel that I did what I could, and I tried to stay within the boundaries of, not poaching. Um, at this point, it's really just depending on what your definition of poaching is. But I went into there. I did the best that I could to try to, be fair and not fuck them over more than they were already getting fucked over.
Well, regardless of what happened, the Seven Foods today seems to be thriving, very much so. So let's talk about like the current day Seven Foods. So how would you summarize the regiment?
Um, I'd say our main philosophy, obviously everyone wants to perform well, or everyone wants to do well, but our main thing is always that we want to have fun. We want people to treat this like a casual game because it is. The first thing I tell every new recruit is like, look, we have to be considered active, you have to attend 3 events a week. But if you don't want to attend 3 events a week, that's perfectly fine. We're not going to make you play video games. It's a video game. You do what you want. If you don't want to play, don't play. If you can't play, obviously don't play. But I don't know. It's a casual atmosphere, and we have a lot of competitive people, but it's always optional if you want to get good at the game. If you want to progress in the regiment, you don't have to. It's you get out of it as much as you put in. So I think that's one of the biggest appeals. That's why we've had the success that we have, because we let each person decide how much they want to invest, and we don't really expect anything out of anyone.
Um, if it wasn't for the Seven Foods, like would you still be playing Holdfast, or do you think you'd just be like in another regiment?
I might join a regiment as an enlisted person, but I would probably play a lot less. And I don't think, if the Seven Foos collapses for one reason or another, I really don't see myself trying to become an officer or trying to start a new regiment again, because like this is it. Like it's not going to get better than this. So I don't really see a point. And if somehow I collapse, the regiment collapses, that means like something went wrong, and I don't really want to repeat the experience because it's not like a 2 month adventure. It's like 2 3 years to get to the point that we are. Um, it's a lot of work. I like what I'm doing, but I wouldn't do it again.
Um, Now the Seven Foods is actually a part of my Holdfast journey. I wasn't
Hmm.
in the regiment for very long. I think I joined like the end of September, like 2019.
I can probably
Um,
check actually. It
I think it was like the 20th or 22nd, something like that.
was the 20th of September. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that stuck out to me was a week after I joined the regiment. Me and Goober got like into an argument or something, and he ended up like completely doxing me. Like I'm talking address, photo, name, like everything. And even though like I was a recruit, like I had just joined the regiment, you like put your foot down and you like really backed me up, and you said no, like this is not okay, and you blacklisted Goober from everything. So I want to thank you for doing that, because I wasn't expecting someone that I had just like joined the regiment of to do that for me. So I want to thank you for that.
I mean, yeah, you're welcome, but I think that's what anyone should do. Like some things are just clearly wrong. Some it's not like a gray moral area, oh, maybe he had a good reason to dox him. There isn't a good reason. It was a no-brainer for me, and I would hope it would be a no-brainer for most people. I think it is. It's just um, like if I think he was in the 21st at the time, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think they blacklisted him. I believe even he was an officer in there, but obviously, they had their own needs that they needed to keep him around for. So I didn't have those. I didn't have any reason to let him be around, and I don't want someone who doxes people to be anywhere near my members.
yeah. It doesn't seem like everyone has the same opinion as you, which is unfortunate.
It
Um,
is what it is.
so I did end up going on LOA. I think you remember that quite
Yeah.
clearly. Um, I actually got kind of addicted to RuneScape, so it was nothing like that was wrong with the regiment, or you guys like weren't doing anything right or something. I just had like different needs. Um, but I did enjoy my time there. I know that you guys got sort of into Prime and Load, so do you want to speak on that at all?
Yeah, like I said earlier, Holdfast at the time was not as good as it is today, nowhere near. So we were looking more actively for new avenues. Around December or maybe late November of 2019, we um, we heard about Prime and Load. We got a deal from Spacey actually, who had like a shit ton of keys for a lowered price, which at the time was like $25. Today the game costs $5, so I'm not gonna comment, but I'm sure you can, try to understand the way that we feel now, having spent that much money on the game. Um, it didn't really go anywhere, Prime and Load. I had made a separate regiment because at the time I had like a lot of frustrations with how the Seventh Fist was running. A lot of the things that people were asking for that I said earlier were unreasonable at the meeting with the 49th leaders. Those were things that we implemented in the Seventh Fust in the early times. So like every officer absolutely had to be elected, which isn't wrong per se. I don't have anything against voting, but having like a requirement that they must be voted in and that we must respect the outcome of every election, um, it didn't always work. We also had some pretty bad apples in the regiment that were all mostly they were mostly all removed within like the first year. Um, so that didn't help, but um, just to go back to Prime and Load, yeah, I was frustrated with some of the things in the Seven Foos. I wanted to run the Prime and Load regiment, like just look, this is my regiment. I'm gonna run it my way. If you don't like it, no one's forcing you to be here. So that was part of why I went to Prime and Load. Yes, it was to escape Holdfast, but in some ways it was also to escape some aspects of the Seven Foos that I didn't like. Um, but yeah, we all know what happened with Prime and Load. It didn't really go anywhere, unfortunately.
I know that I don't think we've ever been like at each other's throats, but we did sort of like not really keep in touch after that whole thing went down. I know that I started to criticize Marx for some of the things he was doing, and at the time, you were like really like defending him and stuff. So looking back, like, how do you think that all went down between me and you and the whole Marx situation?
What I remember from the discussion we had was when you had made a comparative list between this is good in Prime and Load, this is bad in Hold Fast. Like I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, like the
Oh
pros and
yes,
cons of
yes,
each
yes.
game. Yeah, and I was just saying like you were I didn't like how you were advertising it as a like, game versus game comparison when it was really what was essentially like a game that was fleshed out and had a big player base versus a small game that wasn't even in early access at the time. That was my issue with the comparison. That is just it wasn't at a point where the games were had an equivalent amount of development time or features or whatever you want to call it. In terms of like how many years the devs had been on it, it's probably comparable, but the difference is the devs for Prime and Load were part time. They weren't paid. It was like a smaller team, I believe. Um, so that was the issue I took with your comparison. I think it blew a little out of proportion, but I didn't really remember it as a big argument or anything.
The funny thing is, I believe Prime and Node actually won the comparison chart. Um,
It did, but I still felt I think it was like almost even. I don't know. We can probably scroll in our messages. Like we don't like you said, we didn't really keep in touch. We don't have that many messages. So
I didn't make it
oh,
like as
your
a
account is gone. I forgot.
I didn't really make it like as a serious thing. Like I do take it like as a compliment that people take what I say so seriously. But yeah, it was really just like my thoughts on the whole comparison thing. But I do get where you're coming from, where Prime and Load should have been like I guess further developed. Um, but I actually remember my last day in the Seven Foos. I think I left right after you left. I was like, you know what? If my reg leader ain't here, I ain't here.
Yeah,
So I just left.
that might be um the dark days,
The dark days. Of course, I had
Carlos's
to join during
dictatorship.
the dark days. Um, so I know like during my time there was discussions of like a possible white coat merger. So, and I think Swagnar or whatever the hell his name is kind of got into it. So, like, do you want to talk about that at all?
Look, we can talk about Swagner, but you're not going to make your 6 p.m. event.
Oh, true, true, true.
Uh,
Um, yeah, just the white coat merger. Then, how seriously did
the
you take that?
very quickly, I was just at the time we were smaller, like we would bring 10 to 15 per event, which is a typical smallish regiment. So recruiting also wasn't like super easy back then. There weren't that many people looking to be recruited, and we were a small regiment, so we had less traction. So I was looking for mergers, and I had contacted a few people. I don't really remember who, but I obviously the Whitecoats, J Rod was one of those people. Um, all I had really discussed with them was like, okay, well, look, we are potentially interested in a merge. What would be the conditions under which you guys would consider one? And what we had discussed is that maybe they would like be able to lead their own company within the Seventh Foos, so like their own infantry unit. But that was the extent of the talks. Like nothing was planned, nothing was going to happen. The problem was one of our. I mentioned it to our officers, like to keep them in the let them know what's going on. I just told them, hey, so I talked to them. I gave them this deal. They seem to be okay with the deal, but they don't know if they want to merge. So I presented that. One of the officers wasn't happy with the fact that we were merging at all, or I don't know if it was like he didn't like merging, period, or he didn't like the conditions under which we were doing it. Um, but basically, the people who were against it, that officer, I think he wanted all of them to transfer basically as recruits, right? Which isn't a merge at this point. You're just telling the other regiment to disband and transfer. So either way, they went to they went public with it in some way. They went to the enlisted union that we had at the time, which is another artifact from when we left the 49th that we thought we needed. He went to the union. The union contacted me, said like, "Look, you can't make these decisions without telling everyone." But my stance was, look, we didn't make any decisions yet. We're just talking about it. I informed the officers, and if he was gonna go any further, I was gonna tell the enlisted. And the argument got really frustrating. So just to prove my point, I posted a like at everyone, "Hey, I've talked about this with the Whitecoats. Is anyone against this?" And it was like a very very one-sided vote, as in like the vast majority of people were in favor, but a few people, including Swagnar, were extremely against it and were just throwing shit at the walls everywhere. and
Yes, I was
Swagner
there for
left
that.
over it. Yeah. I still have the channel. I don't know if you remember, I had created a separate debate channel
Mhm.
just for people to talk about it. I keep that channel as a reminder of like where we were and to never go back there. I still have it. I have all the messages that Swagner said and all the conversation that was there. Just it's it's something.
I find it so hilarious that I was in the Seven Foods for what, like 3 months, and I was probably on LOA for like over half of that, and it just so happened to be during the darkest and most turbulent days of the
Yeah.
Seven Foods. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was the first few months up until like I would say February of 2020. Those were the dark times. After Christmas, it got better, but one particular person left in February of 2020, and after that point in March, the Corona started and the game released, and we got a shit ton of new recruits, and things started looking much better from then on.
Yeah,
But
so let's
before
let's
that,
talk about then on, like what have there been any major changes since I was there?
well, we have more detachments. I don't think we had cavalry back then. We only had one company. Now we have three. So we have three infantry companies and three detachments. In terms of administration, whenever I had come back, when you left, I had just left. When I came back as the co-leader with Los, and we've been the same rank like ever since. So it's been over a year now. So in terms of that, nothing's changed. Um, I'm trying to think. Really, we don't do elections for officers every time. Like if we have some candidates that okay, well they could both be good, and we're not sure which one to pick, then we'll have the enlisted members of that unit vote to see which ones they like the most. But other than that, we pick our own officers based on their skill and um, you know uh, whatever criteria we need. Um, I don't know. There are. I wouldn't say the Seven Foos has really changed. It's more that there were a lot of people that were bringing the Seven Foos down in terms of toxicity and attitude and whatever, and those people are gone. The more of those people we got rid of, the better things became.
I know that there was, I think it was during the summer or maybe a little bit after, there was the whole 47E Seven Foods merger
Mm,
talks. Now the seven, this is more of Los's domain, but for the Austro RGL, you guys actually the 4070 and Seven Foods like sign up as like a joint team,
yeah,
because it seemed to me like I was told that like it was a done deal, like don't worry about it. We're just like in our final talks or whatever.
right.
But then it kind of all just fell through.
It did.
So can you just talk about that a bit?
At the time that we told you it was a done deal, it did feel like it was a done deal. We did think like, okay, this is the direction we're going in. Everyone's voted pretty much in favor of it. All we have to do is pick a faction and start the transition period. But what happened after that caused us to leave? I mean, one of the biggest reasons, which is like something that we couldn't get around, is we got too big. We couldn't fit on a single team with the 4070 anymore because we were bringing 60 to 70 per event, and they were bringing like 40, 30 to 40. I don't remember exactly, maybe more than that even. So we straight up could not fit on a single team during events. So like a merge was physically impossible. But other than that, is just the 47E and the Seven Foos are ran very differently. And the more we tried to like work things out, the more I was like, oh well, we just have very different mentalities on how things should be. And it's not that we were wrong or they were right or anything. It's just it seemed less compatible than we had thought the more it went on. So when the numbers problem rose up, that was the reason that we had to pull out. But it started to seem less likely just to begin with. I had also sent out polls because I was getting the general atmosphere that people had towards the merge. When we were asking them, it's like, hey, are you good with merging, right? And people would say yes, because like, yeah, I'm fine if we merge. It's fine. I won't leave or anything. But then I asked another time, I asked the question slightly differently. I said, do you prefer merging or would you rather just stay the seven foos? And that time everyone was like, look, I'm fine with merging, but I would rather just stay the seven foos and not merge. And I shared those results with the 4070. I don't know if they did any similar votes on their end, but at that point for us, there was like no point. There was no way to justify a merge, so we pulled out of it.
Any bad blood or bad relations with the 4070 afterwards?
I mean, no, we kind of just parted ways, and we couldn't really be in a coalition anymore because, again, we couldn't fit on a team together. So we kind of stopped having contact with them. I don't think there's any bad blood between us and them. But I don't think I've spoken to any of them in a few months now. Um, there's nothing to say. I don't really feel like we have a relationship anymore. But that's not because there's any bad blood. It's just we don't have anything to talk about really. We're not in a coalition. We're not looking to merge. They've started working with the NR9 recently, I believe. So I guess they'll be going in that direction.
Speaking of the NR9, I know that they had an issue with you guys murking, or NR9 members are murking with the Seven Foos. Do you recall that at all?
I'm not sure what you're talking about. No.
I think I remembered one time that NR9 members were like murking for the Seven Foos, and then Giddy had an issue with it, but I'm not sure if you were informed or if I was talking to someone else
Mm,
about that.
no, I don't think I've heard about that. We get NR9 mercs every once in a while. Like the Kaler would merc with us sometimes, and I've seen Wi-Fi bills a few times recently. But no, I don't remember about any issues. I might have just forgotten, honestly. Like, there's been so much drama over 2 years. This doesn't seem like it would have been a big deal if it did happen. So if it did, and I was told, I probably forgot about it.
So how do you think the Seven Foos stacks up with like other regiments? Um, because there are some like very large and prominent regiments out there. Like, where do you see the Seven Foos at?
Um, I don't know. We're fairly big. Um, we have a good community. We people like each other. People usually have fun. We perform decently well. If a couple months ago, I would have told you that we performed very poorly, like in general, but there's been more of a competitive comeback recently. We've started performing better in line battles, and our group fight team is getting fleshed out. And like I would say it's getting fairly good now. But competitive has never been something. As soon as I left the 49th, I knew I was done with competitive. It's not my scene. I was really sick of it. So I never really cared that much. But in terms of skill, I think we're probably just average. In terms of size, we're obviously a little bigger than most. But I don't know. I don't think it's the main criteria that define what a regiment is. It's really you have to be in a regiment to really understand how they are. And I'm only in the seven foos, so I can only really speak as to how we do things and what our attitude is, what our atmosphere is. I can get general ideas, or like people will tell me, oh, this regiment does things like this or like that, but I try not to compare, especially with like something like numbers. It's really not something that matters to me. Oh, we bring 50 people and you guys only bring 40. Like, okay, who cares? Do your people are your people happy to be there? Do they have a good time? Do they like playing the video game with you? That's all that really matters. In my mind, we're here to provide a service to the members of the regiment, and that service is to have fun playing Holdfast.
That is what it all comes down to. So when I think of Seven Foos competitive, one name comes to mind, and that name is Sin. Sin is like a legend in the melee community. He was drafted number one in the HDL, and that's like over 100 players were in that draft, and he was drafted number one. I know that you had some concerns about his maturity in I think 2019 ish. So like, can you just speak about Sin's growth?
I don't remember what you're referencing.
Um, I think I did have a conversation with you that I think Sen was like had some behavior issues or he was a bit immature. I'm not sure,
Oh,
but
yeah, yeah. Okay, I remember. Yeah, and early on in the seventh Fuse, he was already good at melee. He was already getting pretty prominent, and sometimes he would like lord that over other people a little. Like, it was always just in like a banter kind of way. It was never a super big deal. But at the time, we know with everyone being toxic, like people like Swagner and company that were around when Sin was being kind of quote unquote toxic, but it was really just banter and like gen chat and hold fast. We took it probably a bit more seriously than we needed to, but we never really did anything. I don't think he was being really immature or anything. So of all the teenagers that I've met, I wouldn't say that he's one that I would call immature at all. I don't think he ever really was, as long as I knew him. Really, just that incident probably talked to you about it, and I guess it stuck in your mind more than it really needed to. It wasn't really a big deal at all.
well, I only focus on the melee side of things, so probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so like how important has Sen been to the regiment? Because like he is a major part of your competitive side, right?
Uh, I mean, obviously less now as he used to be. But yeah, a group fight where we have Sin versus a group fight where we don't have Sin is obviously very different. Um, he was an officer for a good while. I couldn't tell you how long, but like I would say probably at least 6 months easily. And he did a good job as an officer. He was a good leader. His members liked him. He had to step away. Recently, he was moved to reserves because he has a lot of school stuff and after school stuff, so he's not as available. I think he can only play on the Monday and Tuesday event, is what he told me, and he shows up for competitive every once in a while. But he's definitely up there in terms of members that have contributed positively to the regiment.
And he's very, very well known in the melee community. You know, my melee Discord, like he's won tournaments. He's very sought
Mm-hmm.
after for group fights, and I think like Reddish, Reddish has pretty much taken over like what the
Right.
Glory Sin had. Um, Reddish has kind of he was like always like above average, but recently he's just like blown up like in both group fighting and dueling. So like, do you want to speak about Reddish at all?
Like I said, recently we've had more of an emphasis, like more people are interested in competitive and getting good at melee. And I don't think I can teach Reddish anything in terms of how to play melee, but he's obviously had a lot more practice in group fights, and I guess that's what you've noticed is that he plays around other people a lot better than he used to. He's not just a 1v1 machine, but he's a part of a team, and we've been practicing that a lot more. We do a lot more trainings recently. They're all optional, like I said at the start. It's up to you if you want to be really competitive or not. We just happen to have more people who are interested. So I would say that's probably at least partially why he's. If you've seen an increase in skill, that's probably why.
Someone else who has been and probably is very important to the competitive side of the Sun Foos is Brad. Um, so yeah, what do you want to talk about Brad at all and how important he's been?
Um, there's not that much to say, unfortunately. He was there. He was very good at melee. I guess he just got sick of hold fast eventually. He still shows up every once in a while for competitive stuff, but he does not come for events at all. Um, I don't know. He was my friend. I liked him. I miss him. Um, we were lucky to have him, and we're lucky that he still shows up sometimes.
Oh, I didn't know that he became very inactive. He actually participated in the HDL, and he
Hmm.
was very active in that. Seems
Yeah,
that afterwards he kind of took a break or something.
he's still fairly active in the competitive scene. He isn't interested in the. Well, I'm assuming he isn't because he never shows up for it for line battles and the more normal, casual side of Old Fast.
Hmm.
But we still talk to him sometimes. He still, every once in a while, he'll post something in our Discord or he'll show up for a group fight. So he's not gone in terms of like a person. He's gone in terms of like a member of the regiment during line battles. We never see him there.
Did the Seven Foos participate in the NWL that happened? Just happened?
Uh, the melee one.
No, not the RGL, the NWL. Or was that last year? Or
I don't know. There's so many things that are called like almost the same thing that honestly I don't know what you're talking about. You'd probably have to ask Los if you wanted to, because like I really do not care about competitive. I let him handle all that stuff 100%.
okay,
He signs us up for tourneys without telling me, not because he doesn't tell me, but because he knows I'll just say I don't care, do what you want.
right. But
So
like in a more general sense, do you see yourself catching up to like regiments such as like the 45E, 63E, KRA, TRR?
I can't say we fight them very often because the events we go to they don't. So I can't really speak on that.
Okay,
And since I'm not really in the competitive scene, I'm also not really aware of like who's good at what. I have general ideas. Like I know Ed is decent at melee and skirm god during fucking NWLs, but I don't have a solid picture of what each regiment is good at or how they compare to us.
so a few final questions. What has Holdfast meant to you?
Um, Holdfast, like the game, not that much. It's just the community, the regiment. Obviously, I think every person ever interviewed about this game tells you the same thing. It's not the game that keeps us around, it's the regiment, it's the people that we met. And, it's nice to have a community of people that you can come home to and hang out with pretty much whenever you want. I feel like that's kind of priceless. The game itself, well, it's not priceless, it's $20.
So pretty much like if you had the same group of people but we're playing another game, you'd
I
just
mean,
be
yeah.
like fine if as long as you were having fun.
Yeah, I really don't care what we're playing. I mean, we play other games all the time here. Um, I don't participate as much because I've been really busy as of late. Like all my free time is devoted to hold fast, and the rest of the time I'm working on school or internship or whatever. But yeah, people play other games all the time. We could play fucking Roblox for all I care, as long as we're doing it as a community.
Is there anybody you're like close to, both inside and outside the regiment?
Um, I mean, obviously the like CEOs of the Seven Foos are people that I've gotten to know very well, like Los, but also Ron, MK, Apex, Blue, Gray. Um, I don't know, define close really. I would consider them my friends. Also other people in the regiment, but I'm not gonna list. I'm not gonna go through the roster and list every person that like I know. But um, yeah, I guess the COs are an easy bet if you want to say who's the closest to me. So obviously, that's going to be the COs of the regiment because they are the people that I've known the longest. But it's not necessarily because other people are less worthy or something. It's just I haven't known them for as long.
Okay. Is there anybody like outside the regiment that you talk to at all or frequently?
Um, I mean, recently I've been talking to the 51st fairly frequently. It's a fairly recent thing. It's just because they merc with us for NA and we merc for them in EU. So my main contact is Seaside. Um, but like I wouldn't say that we're close or anything. Like first time I spoke to him was not even a month ago.
The Boomer Regiment, 51st. It's funny because the 51st has been a regiment longer than a lot of the
Yeah,
Holdfast players have been alive,
yeah, I
which is
know.
hilarious.
It is funny. Um,
Um,
I'm Misha. I can't forget Misha. I don't talk to Misha that often, but I would say he's probably one of my closest friends that I've met in the just in Holdfast in general. Like we'll talk. Um, I don't know. It's just like one of those people. I can go 3 months without talking to him, and like I would still feel fine just messaging him randomly out of the blue. So um, I can't. Maybe I'm forgetting a few people, but if I forget someone, it's not because I don't care. It's just like I don't have a list on hand.
Is there anything you wish you would have done differently? Things
Yeah,
like you
all the
look back
people
on.
that I've banned from the seventh Foos, I wish I would have done it earlier. 100%. Every time you ban one of those people who are just toxic and you know are just like problematic, the regiment just improves just in terms of everything, like atmosphere. Everyone's just happier, not on edge. Um, yeah, look, if you're a regiment leader and you're listening to this interview and there's someone that you're not sure if you should ban them, but you know they're toxic and they cause you more pain than anything, just get rid of them. It's a video game. It's not that deep. Just they can find something else to do. Everyone will be happier for it.
Um, Now I've been guilty of being a little bit too ban happy sometimes. So like,
Hmm.
how do you balance being like trigger happy to like letting a toxic person spread their toxicity for too long? Like, what's the line for you?
I have a Los. We are yin and yang. I am ban happy, and he is not. So I won't ban anyone without telling him. I did it one time, and it was a mistake, and I regret it, and I won't do it again. Um, but usually, yeah, we'll talk pretty much everything through. We don't disagree on anything, but we have very different approaches, so they kind of even out. Um,
I don't think we've actually spoken about Los too much in this interview. Do you just want to talk about him and how important he's been to the regiment?
if low sleeves were fucked,
Oh God.
no, but I will manage. But neither of us want the full charge of being in charge of the regiment because it's we're both like painfully aware of how much work it is. So we each have our spheres of influence of like what we do, and like he does all the competitive stuff, but during events he's the one that's like commanding the team, organizing the lines together, the detachments. I'm just on the ground playing with people usually. Um, he'll take care of some parts of the paperwork. I'll take care of others. He's the more friendly person to talk to, like whenever people have issues or someone needs to be disciplined or whatever. Just in terms of like HR department, I guess he's the go-to. Um, and I cover the other things, just leading on the ground, organizing the regiment, keeping the structure, um, writing like managing Discord, TeamSpeak, the forum. It's yin and yang. I wouldn't recommend for anyone to ever like be co-leaders of anything because having two leaders is a bad idea. But Los and I kind of just hit the jackpot, and we work together really, really well. I wouldn't see myself doing this without him.
You were both in the 49th together, correct?
Yeah, he was a guard and in the detachment.
And so when would you say that you two kicked it off?
I didn't really know him until he became an officer in the Seventh Foos because he was very quiet. He didn't talk that much. He was elected to be an officer. He became a CO, which is proof that elections aren't inherently wrong. It's just having to follow them blindly is not always good. But yeah, he became an officer and eventually a CO through that, and that's how when he became an officer, he had to start talking. So that's when I got to know him. Um, over the time, like the first few months, the dark days, he was the still then the yin to my yang, trying to keep things together. And when I left for a month or so, he was the one who was left alone in charge, and he did a good job. And when I came back, we were co-leaders at that point because we had already pretty much been co-leaders before then, so might as well.
And Los was actually the one I talked to when I was considering joining the Seven Foos,
Hmm.
and that talk went very well, and I ended up joining. And I have like, I went to Los with like all the RGL we were in and all the competitive stuff, and I just had no complaints over like how he handled things. So Los gets my stamp of approval.
Yes, he's a good dude.
So obviously no one's perfect. Are you looking to improve on anything?
I would, I'm trying to be more patient, but you can only. I don't know. I get annoyed very easily when I have to repeat myself. Like if I have to tell someone the same thing 3 times, the
What's the
third time
password?
I'm
What's the
gonna be
password?
not even that, because I can understand like you weren't there the first time I said it, you were AFK or something. But if I have to explain like no, you shouldn't do something like this, like if an officer makes the same mistake over and over again, like they'll just form up in the middle of nowhere instead of using like a rock that's right next to them. It's like the fourth time I'm telling you to use the cover that's right next to you. But yeah, I mean, you can ask any Seven Foos member. They'll probably tell you, I'm the mean leader and he's the nice leader, and so that's probably my biggest thing that I always try to work on, but with varying degrees of success. I'm obviously a lot less on edge than I was when the regiment started, when there was all these really annoying toxic people getting to my nerves. But I think just to my core, I have a fairly short fuse and I try to manage it, but you can't always. You are who you are at some point.
Now that's interesting that you brought up the officers as someone you get annoyed with. Usually people like get on recruits or they get on privates, but you seem to have like an issue with the officers,
No,
which is interesting.
no. The enlisted are here to have fun. You don't yell at enlisted. Like enlisted have to really, really, really get on my nerves for me to start yelling at them. Like they
You
have to
don't fill
make the same
gaps.
mistake 20 times. Like someone who's been here for 6 months who still like fucks up the same thing over and over. I still won't yell at them, but like, I'm not gonna be a super nice like, oh, it's okay, you messed up, you'll get better. Like, just give it another 10 months and you'll know how to do it. But yeah,
Some,
people who yell at enlisted like power trip on recruits. Like, I don't know. I don't understand. Like I said earlier, I get annoyed when I have to repeat myself a lot, and when I've explained something 20 billion and people still don't understand how to do it, that's when I get annoyed. And with a recruit, that's like not going to be the case. They're new, they don't know what's going on. So no, I don't think. Maybe I used to yell at recruits back then in the dark days when I was just constantly annoyed, and I wasn't really as self-aware that I am today of like how I tend to behave. So I would yell without really thinking about it. But no, no, I don't know. I feel like I've gotten a lot better with it, but obviously there's always more you can do.
Now, did someone come to you and was like, Jev, I think you're a bit too hot. You need to bring it down a little bit, or was this something that you just noticed about yourself?
No, that's we have officer reviews, so every 3 months everyone can review the officers anonymously. So it's been brought up there, but obviously, like when you have an unpleasant interaction with someone, then you kind of just like know. Everyone in the room goes silent, and it's like, oh, it's awkward. They're fighting. Um, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's pretty obvious, and I usually apologize after if I go overboard. But I don't know. Um, like I said, I feel like it happens less and less, and that's a lot to do with just taking the game more casually, not having these really problematic people around constantly just getting at your nerves.
Um, Usually when Seven Foos members are like disgruntled, I won't really be hearing about it. I think that's more for the officers and stuff. But there was this one rare case of, I think you know who I'm talking about, this individual.
Hmm.
I want me to say his name, or do you not
I'm
want
assuming you talk about Evergreen.
Petrus?
Petrus. Oh, well, Petrus is like a whole separate. I don't. Petrus was demoted and he left because he was angry about getting demoted. But he got demoted because he was like making fake accounts to merc with people and team kill them. And
What?
yeah, and we caught him. Like I think it was so the SLR or the SRR whenever they were first formed, and they were sometimes team killing people during events. So like he said he went to team kill them for like revenge, but they had never done it to us, so I didn't really understand. Like he was taking revenge on behalf of other regiments or something. Um, so yeah, we caught him. We said, look, man, we know it's you. Just come clean, and we'll see what we do. But he wouldn't come clean until we like showed him the proof that we had. And so like, look, man, you didn't come clean. And even then, all we did was demote him. but he had spent a lot of time trying to get the promotion that he had just gotten. So when he got demoted, he just left. I
I
don't know
think
what
when
you
this
wanted to talk
happened,
about him.
well, this was early 2020, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, right. You want to talk about him saying that I'm homophobic or something? Is that what you wanted to bring up?
Well, I just found it kind of funny that he like I wasn't even like in the regiment, and he was like bringing all this stuff up with me.
Hmm.
So like I just found it kind of weird.
Yeah.
I just want to get your
It's,
side of the story.
it's just the kind of person that he is. It's just like people who peddle drama all over the place. The whole homophobe thing, like when you mentioned it in the Melee Discord, when you did, I didn't know where it came from. Like I didn't even know he was gay, but I'm certainly not a homophobe. We have multiple officers here that are, God damn, it sound like a corporation, but yeah, we have multiple people who aren't straight in the Seventh Fusilier. Like one of them, I'm not gonna name anyone, but some of them I'm very close to. I'm definitely not a homophobe. I really don't know where that came from. I don't know if I had an interaction with him that really made him feel this way, or if he just like pulled it out of his ass. Which honestly, like with his character, I wouldn't be surprised if he did. But if I did do something, I am sorry, but I am certainly not a homophobe.
Um, n- like people like Petrus, is that like pretty rare, like to encounter in the Seven Foos, or
Mm,
uh,
you wouldn't find one today, but people like him, like him, Swagner, I put them in they're like cut out of the same piece of cloth, the same kind of people, just always peddling drama, always need to know the latest news, spreading just bullshit all over the place. They were very similar in that aspect. Um, I don't know. I don't. He's a kid. I don't really want to talk shit about him too much. I hope he grows out of his less pleasant behaviors, but in the end, again, it's a video game. Whatever happened, it's kind of inconsequential.
um, what was the deal with Evergreen? I don't think I've heard about him.
Evergreen was just it was a stupid thing. Like he would always be AFK during events, like always, constantly. And as far as I'm aware, he was never like saying why. Um, he would always be back just in time for all charge. Like oh yeah, you were AFK. You weren't just waiting for all charge. I don't know. I don't know what the truth is, but one event I was just it was like the 20th time that he was doing it. So I was just really annoyed. So I just I banned him for the event. My intention was to just for like the rest of the event and then let him back. But as soon as I banned him, he went to the Melee Discord. You can probably see it. Like just search by his name.
Started
You
complaining
can,
and stuff.
yeah, he started complaining like it was no reason and whatever. He was never warned. And it's like, no, you were warned. I have screenshots of my conversation. Again,
Oh, you're cutting out a bit.
yeah, sorry. Saying just again, he's a kid. It's just a video game. Um, like I said, my intention was to just temp ban him and then let him back in after the event, but I didn't communicate that, so it looked like a perm ban. And when he went to the Melee Discord and immediately just started talking shit everywhere, I was like, okay, well, at this point, we can't really let him back in. Like, it's just, you know, uh, the, I forgot the expression, but yeah, I felt like there was no coming back from that point. He was obviously very angry with us. Um, he had caused us a lot of grief just in like his attitude with other people and um, just always kind of trolling in a way that you can't really say that he is, but like he always has an excuse or either the fucking AFK thing. He wouldn't even give an excuse half the time. I don't know if he had the reason, then I don't know what it is, but it's a very peculiar one.
Yeah, I do find it peculiar that he, instead of going to the officers or going to you, he went straight to like the Melee Discord, and like for what? Just to like spread bullshit? Like I don't get it. Like you always try to work it out with individuals first.
I think he did try to message me, but I told him like, look, you're always AFK during events. Um, yeah, I didn't tell him it was a temp ban because he messaged me mid event, so I was still leading. So I didn't really explain my position or what was going on. By the time the event was over and we could really talk, then he had already like went to the Melee Discord and said everything. But he did try to message me first. It's just I didn't really provide an appropriate full response because I was still in the middle of the event.
Do you wish things would have been handled differently, or are you just glad that he's not an issue anymore?
Um, I mean, I definitely shouldn't have just banned him mid-event, like 100%. That's the thing I was talking about earlier. Of like there was one time I banned someone without asking Los first. That was I was referring to Evergreen. I definitely shouldn't have done what I did. Um, I was just again, it's like I said earlier. I get really annoyed when I have to tell someone the same thing hundreds and hundreds of times. And in Evergreen's case, it was just him constantly going AFK and then just coming back for all charge during like almost every single event. He would do it once or twice, 1 or 2 rounds, and like every time he would do it, you would hear everyone in the channel go, "Oh, Evergreen, here he goes again, being AFK," and it's really annoying. Like if he was just AFK, then they would just slay him. But if someone is AFK and then they come back for all charge, then we have to wait a whole like minute or 2 minutes for him to just run to the all charge and wait for him to lose. Because if at that point he's the last one, like he's probably not gonna win anyways. It's just a waste of time, and it was really annoying.
Now, as much as a melee enthusiast I am, I don't think I ever did that in my time in the Seven Foos, so
No,
that's saying something.
you did the smart move. You joined Artie so that you would be alive at all charge.
I did join Artie, but I felt like it was either that I'm getting swamped by the whole team or my team is swamping the whole other team. It's never like a nice old charge even battle, or
Hmm.
very rarely you get that. So that sort of annoyed me, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, at the
Um,
time we were smaller, so we didn't really have a control on the team like we do today.
I will say though, I think his name was Creepy. Like
Hmm.
that dude knows how to shoot.
Yeah, Creepy's still around. He left for fire school, firefighter school or something, but he's still around. He's a good dude. He would I would say this. He's one of the close people that you asked me to name earlier.
Hmm. Um.
It's almost
So
6 p.m. by the
yeah,
way.
we're just at the tail end. Has anyone been doing like a great job recently, and you kind of just want to speak on them a little bit or something?
Just to keep it short, I guess I'll just keep it to one person, but I will shout out Blue Two. He's the leader of our third company. Um, he was put in charge of the company when it was formed. He's been in charge of it ever since. He pretty much has never missed a week. He's been active every single week for like the past 8 months, 9 months. I don't know. I'd have to check, but it's been a while. He's never caused any issues. Um, he's run the company really well. So yeah, um, really, it's nice to have like 20% of your regiment that is tightly knitted and squared away, and you don't have to worry about it because you have someone like Bluetooth taking care of it. So yeah, I will shout him out.
Now, the other 80%, are you speaking on behalf of like flaky attendance, or what are you talking about?
I mean, other officers have like in real life things that come up, and they're not necessarily able to deal with them, or sometimes people make the wrong decisions when trying to deal with something, including myself. Um, it's hard to explain. I'm not trying to say that, like, obviously, all the officers that are in their positions have done a great job and deserve to be where they are. I just feel like Bluetooth is always, whenever he can, like, go the extra mile, he does. Like, he's been hosting trainings for like months at this point, even when no one else was doing them. He's always there to do like sign-ups if we need to, or well, he doesn't do them because we usually got them. But I feel like if we needed him to, he would. He shows up to events even if he doesn't like them, just to like bolster attendance. Everyone in his company loves him. Like he has a great charisma with his members. So these are all people in his company that I feel like are very happy to be in the regiment. He provides a really great atmosphere for them, more so than other officers. But yeah, like I said, it's not to say that the others don't. It's just he just is particularly exceptional from what I've seen.
Awesome. So throughout your whole entire Holdfast journey, have there been like any one person or several people that have been like very influential to you, and why is that?
Influential in what terms?
I guess just like where you're at right now, like anyone that has helped you get there, or anyone you want to give a shout out to.
I mean, I think the obvious one is Los. Just, like I said earlier, couldn't do this without him. And a lot of the things that I'm trying to fix about myself are things that he has down to he has figured out. Like he's very patient. He's very nice. Um, those are things that I aspire to be. So he's an inspiration, even though I haven't quite achieved my goals to live up to that inspiration.
Awesome. Um, yeah, this has been the Jev interview. Thank you, Jev.
All right. Thank you for watching an hour and 10 minutes of this. I hope you learned something.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.